My name is Anders Hansen, and I'm a psychiatrist, and I was educated at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden. And I'm also an author, and one of the books I've written is called The Attention Fix. I have asked many of my colleagues and friends also, what's the main job, what's the main purpose of the brain? And I have been given so many answers. Some say it's that we should be creative or smart or to remember things or to experience emotions. And the answer is really that the brain is for survival. It's a survival machine. Its main job is to take us to tomorrow alive. And it evolved to do so in a world that was very dangerous because during almost all of human history, half of all humans died before they became teenagers. And they did not die from cardiovascular disease or cancer, but they died from starvation, dehydration, accidents, and murder. What does that mean? Well, that means that we evolved to constantly scan our surroundings for danger. Is there something there, all the time? And that means that our focus, our attention, which is so precious for us, is something that we need to protect. And I think we especially need to protect it in today's world where the most valuable thing is not dollar or yen or Swedish kroner or euros, it's human attention. And there's a battle for our attention. Tech companies are competing for our attention, and they are just getting better and better and better in doing that. And as recently as this week, there was a study conducted at the Karolinska Institute where 8,000 children from 10 to 14 were followed for 4 years. And their habits regarding gaming and TV watching and social media was monitored. And it turned out that usage of social media, lots of social media, was associated with problems of inattentiveness and hyperactivity during this 4-year period. So the more social media they used, the more problems they had with inattentiveness and hyperactivity. And I think that shows that our attention is being eroded today in a way that was never possible before, and we need to protect it. And we also know that today's use of smartphones and social media has the consequence that we don't sleep as much as we used to. Sleeping problems has skyrocketed during the last 20 years. We don't move as much. We're not as physically active as we used to be, and we don't meet as much in real life. And all these three things, sleeping, physical activity, and meeting your friends in real life, they are protecting you against mental health problems such as depression and anxiety. So the main effect on our mental health by the digital lifestyle that we're leading is probably that protective factors are being eroded in today's society and making us more susceptible to anxiety and depressions. And as you probably know, the prevalence of depressions and anxiety has risen, especially for young people. And there is one case where digital life may be dangerous by itself, so to speak, regardless of what it's pushing out, what you don't do when you're online, and that is overusage of social media if you're in your when you're a teenager. Early teens for girls and about 14, 15 for boys 2 years later. And that's probably because this is the time of puberty. And in that part of your life, you are extremely anxious about belonging to a group. And your brain is always asking itself, am I good enough for the group? Am I smart enough? Am I successful enough? Am I good looking enough? Etc., etc. And we humans have always compared ourselves to the rest of the group. And the rest of the group was probably 100, 150 individuals. And today we compare ourselves to the entire planet. And there's always going to be someone who is smarter and better looking and more successful than we are. And of course, we don't compare ourselves to the way these people are. We compare ourselves to the way they present themselves on screen. We compare ourselves to Instagrammers' perfect lives. And we have started comparing ourselves to AI Instagrammers, perfect lives and perfect faces. And that sends the signal to the brain that you're not good enough. You don't belong to the group. You are not successful, smart, rich, whatever enough. And in your brain, that is registered as danger, because to belong to a group was as important as having food for our ancestors. So that is probably why overusage of social media when you are a teenager may be harmful to your mental health. And I am not saying that you should turn social media off completely. I'm saying reduce the exposure to it and be aware that your brain might interpret the perfect facades of Instagrammers and your friends or what have you as you not being good enough for the group, which was mortal danger in our past and therefore causes us to feel bad. And these are some of the things I bring up in this book, and I bring up a ton of studies which shows how our reading ability, how our ability to focus, and how our mental health and so on is being affected by modern digital life. And I think that if we learn more about that, we will make smarter decisions. One of those decisions might be for reading comprehension, for instance. If you read a book, a physical book, and you read the exact same text on a PDF, you learn more from the physical book, especially if it's a difficult text. No one knows why that is. There's been speculation that your long-term memory is connected to your spatial memory in your brain so that you get some spatial references when you read the physical book. But no one knows really why, but the physical book is clearly better. Now, the really interesting part here is that the comparison between physical book and digital books have been made for many years now, and it turns out that the difference between physical book and digital book is increasing. And that's not because the physical book gets better, that's because the digital books, and by that I mean reading on a screen, we get worse we get worse on doing that. We seem to get more and more and more distracted by our screens. So this goes back to what I started with. If you want to protect your attention, I think you need to get away from your screens. They may be good pedagogical tools, and I'm a psychiatrist, so that's not my expertise. But the basis for all learning is to focus. That's your brain getting a signal that this is important. I have to learn this. And in order to do that, we need to minimize distractions.